Alteryx has a data analytics platform, and their community exceeds 500,000 members. They also have Alteryx Spark Ed education program, which teaches data analytics school skills to university students. So Chapman is a partner for that. And we have taken advantage of a lot of the generosity that Alteryx has given us with free licenses for the software. So we can train our students to get jobs in data analytics. So that's really exciting. And they have a global Spark Ed program with 170,000 participants in 52 countries. So it's really quite a mission. Libby believes that every employee across the enterprise should be able to work with data in order to deliver important business insights. So we're thrilled to hear about her journey. And so please join me in welcoming Libby Duane Adams.
Thank you. How's everybody doing? Good afternoon. I know it's almost Friday, and you guys are all here tomorrow, right? Even though Easter's on Sunday. Yeah, I go to work tomorrow too, so you're not by yourself. So it is an honor to be here because, as Cynthia said, when we founded Alteryx, Dean, Ned, and I, January of 1997, we were like 2 streets over. We rented an old architectural space on the 2nd floor above the It's About Time antique store. I will remember this address the rest of my life. It's 131 North Glasell. And then we got big and we had to move to 190 South Glasell, which is right on the corner. And it was just such an amazing journey because people say, well, how did you start the company? What did you do? What was your idea? Well, Dean and I worked together at a previous company, a couple of companies, and we kept seeing this problem, which was software was hard to use. Let me actually take a step back. Let me level set for a lot of you in the room who were not probably maybe even around in 1997. But the internet was not what it is today. We did not run around with devices like this in our pocket, able to find an answer to anything in a matter of seconds. We had cell phones, but they were that. They were a phone. You called people on it. When was the last time you placed a call on your phone? This morning. How many have you placed today? Just one. Exactly. So 1997, the internet was in its infancy. It was used by people to help their kids do school projects, maybe make some travel plans, do a little research for a vacation. There was no such thing as Airbnb. There was no such thing as Google. In fact, I remember Alta Vista and my business partner, Ned, saying, Libby, you should check out Alta Vista. Okay, stop using Alta Vista. Go check this thing out called Google. Ned is the brain and brilliance behind our technology. So I always listen to Ned. And I went and I started using Google before it is what it is today. But I share these stories because when we founded, we had an idea. We wanted to make access to data easier for business people because neither Dean nor I are coders. How many of you guys have coded in R or Python or SQL? Show of hands. Okay, so about half the room. So neither he nor I are coders, but we still ask questions with data in mind. And so we kept saying there's got to be a better way. And by the way, we were having these conversations when we were gainfully employed. And we said, we should try something. This was about 2 years before we started. We should try something. It's easy to say that when you've got a paycheck flowing in, every couple of weeks. And then fast forward, we get this idea. The timing just happened. It worked out. He had gotten fired from a company that he had just recruited me to come to go to work with him. And I'm like, I didn't go there to work with them. I came here to work with you. So I step out of a perfectly good paying job and we're like, okay, let's go. He and I are both business people. We know what we want to solve for, but neither one of us write code. So we've got a big problem. Fast forward, we ask a friend of ours that we really trusted, hey, do you know anyone who can build a block centroid retrieval engine? And this guy, Steve, said, yeah, there's this guy, Ned, that just finished a consulting gig with the company that Steve worked for. You might want to talk to him. He's really, really smart. Lo and behold, we talked to Ned. Probably about 45 days later, Ned's like, sure, I'll give it a go. Let's see what we can do. So 3 of us hang ourselves out there in the wind and say, okay, let's give it a try. We self-funded. We put personal money into the business and we ran the business like a business. We didn't hire a head of revenue. We didn't get to spend money on marketing and hiring expensive salespeople. Remember, I said that because good ones are expensive. We focused on getting customers, earning the right to do business, getting some more money from those customers, and then being able to hire more people. We did that up until 2011. And in 2010, 2009 and 10, we started hearing customers who were using our software say things like, your software is letting me do things I could never do before. Or do you realize how much I'm getting done now? I can bring all these different resources together and not use these 5 other softwares. I can do it all in Alteryx. Customers are telling us this. We're like, okay. And then customers started telling us things that they were doing with the software that we didn't even know was possible. So they started exploring. This was the power of what we were building. So fast forward, this is 2009, 2010, 2011. We say, okay, we're onto something here. We're going to have to invest in the business. We're going to have to do the expensive part. Remember, expensive. We're going to have to invest in salespeople. We're going to have to invest in marketing programs. By the way, I'm pointing at Preston because he wants to do a sales internship this summer. So anybody hiring for sales interns, that's your guy right there. So 2011, we've got to go out, raise some money. We go out, we raise $5 million. And we think, wow, this is incredible. We're there. Yeah, no. Because over the course of the next 5 years, we raised a total of about $163 million. And the whole goal of the raise of those dollars was continuing to invest and build the business. And we had the privilege of going public on the New York Stock Exchange in March of 2017. We were a $125 million company, now traded on the New York Stock Exchange. The valuations were crazy, but if anybody thought those first, 19 years were hard, wrong. It shifts all over again. It never gets easy. And so 2017, we go public. We're building, we're growing, we're continuing to grow, we're continuing to build. We're now doing business in 90 countries around the world. We've got offices across the US. Our global headquarters now is in Irvine. We've got offices, and I'll do a quick around the world. Broomfield, Colorado, just north of Denver. Plano, Texas. New York. Boston. Ann Arbor, Michigan. London. Amsterdam. Paris. Munich. Prague. Kyiv. When the war broke out, that's a whole nother story. Singapore, Tokyo, Sydney, Australia. Oh, and I forgot Sao Paulo, Brazil. And so that growth as a public company was, we thought we were going fast before. We were really going fast now. And then March of 2020 hits, and the entire world shuts down. It didn't stop our business. What it created was a reaction like that, because business leaders all of a sudden realized, oh my God, I can't see the person outside my office or down the hall or upstairs that used to do my analytics. How do I get my analytics? What do I do? It actually sped up this world of analytics. As soon as COVID hit, business leaders needed more data to drive the business. So what we as a world, not just Alteryx, but we as a world have gone through these last 3 years was actually hyperspeed of data analytics being now a required job skill. Everyone everywhere is asking questions, and they're answering those questions with data. They're asking questions of the data. They're asking more questions of the data. And so we went through this hyper growth while we, Alteryx, were in this transformation like the rest of the world during COVID. We're also seeing customers saying, okay, I need your help. I need this. This is what I'm trying to do. How do I do this? And so these discussions around upskilling of talent became front and center. It also created another opportunity for Alteryx. Oh, by the way, this is Dean and Ned. They really are real people, I swear. Both of them actually now live in Colorado. Ned's up in Boulder, Dean's down in Colorado Springs, and my husband and I are in the middle in Sedalia, Colorado. And that's us the day we went public on the New York Stock Exchange. And this is us back when we were mere children, thinking we had a great idea. What did we know? I'll come back to what Alteryx is in just a moment, but I say that this conversation around COVID is, you're going to see brands on here that a lot of you recognize. You probably use some of these products in your home. Certainly Netflix. I don't know. Netflix is up there. Visa, Kellogg, if you like cereal, Kraft Heinz if you use ketchup. This is a sampling of the companies around the world that just got jerked back when COVID hit. Like, oh my God, how do we do this? They very quickly learned that they thought they were data ready. Well, they were, because they had these great talented people running data, whether it was in tax and audit, whether it was in marketing, whether it was in HR, whether it was in supply chain, whether it was in IT. They had these people that could do the data work. But all of a sudden, everything flipped upside down, and they realized they're not really ready for what they need to run the business. And so that was the hyper growth that I talk about that we experienced as the business started moving forward. And as I said a moment ago, data is everywhere in a company. So whether you're thinking about going to work for someone or you're thinking about starting your own business, it's not just a data analytics skill that you can say you have. How do you then apply that to the business? Is it a marketing question like, where are my customers? Who's likely to churn? What can I do to stop them from churning, stop those customers from churning? Whether it's an operations question, what is the response time for a customer to get an answer? Is that satisfactory? Is that what's causing customers to churn? Could be. Supply chain, we heard a lot about supply chain over these last few years, but that's that demand. How do we predict how much of something that we have to make or deliver? And then what about the raw materials it takes to actually build it? That's all around demand forecasting. So in supply chain, you're starting at the, what do we think we need? And then going backwards from there from a production perspective. And so every one of these kinds of teams were getting impacted during COVID. And so we had to move quickly. We had to move fast. Fast forward to where we are today, one of the outcomes of COVID for Alteryx was what I said a moment ago, which is analytics is now a required job skill. Being comfortable working with data is now a required job skill. I sit in the C-suite, and for those of you that aren't familiar with that, that's the executive level of our company. I have to work with data. I ask questions of my team that are driven by data. I ask questions of other teams that are driven by data. So nobody's excused from thinking with data. And that was the genesis in May of 2021 of the Alteryx Sparked program, which Cynthia spoke about just a few minutes ago. We at Alteryx know that in order to seed the market with the right skills in the workplace, we've got to get more people learning about data analytics while they're in university. And so that's the genesis of the Sparked program. When I founded this a few years ago, the goal was we give away our software, we put it in the classroom with both the educators and the students. We make curriculum recommendations. These are not requirements, they're just our recommendations. And then we say, okay, how quickly can we move this? Because it's a problem that has to be solved now. So today, we've got over 170,000 learners across 55 countries around the world that are teaching with Alteryx in the classroom. But it's not about Alteryx. It's about the fact that all of you that are learning data analytics, that is a huge plus for you. And it should be something that you brag about on your LinkedIn profiles and eventually on your resumes when you're ready for that step of looking for jobs. And put your resume together for your internship, because that'll also help you. I am very proud of that $162 million number. At the end of 2023, we ran a calculation, and Alteryx gave away $162 million in donated licenses to learners around data analytics. And so that's the power of being able to, being a global technology company, is we can impact people's lives. And that's what our mission is. That's what our goal is. And it's not just impacting lives of students. We're impacting lives of independent learners. You all may know somebody who says, I don't really like my job. I want to go find something new. What do I do? I don't have time to go back to school, but I want to learn a new technology or a new skill. We support those independent learners. We also support military who are transitioning from the military into civilian life. And through a number of different programs, we want the military to take those amazing skills and talent that they've learned and used, put into practice while in the military, and bring that into the private sector. And so we're supporting military communities as well with the Sparked program. And I also will put a plug. We were actually just talking with Henrik and the team about mentorship. We just launched the Alteryx Mentor Connect. If you just quickly go to our website at alteryx.com or go and Google that, it'll take you back to our website. But we actually have our customers. There's over 150 customers that have now raised their hand. They've joined the Mentor Network, which is all online. It's a virtual environment. And they're talking to people about their careers as data analysts. They work for some of those companies that you saw up on that screen just a minute ago. And they want to talk to any of you that want to know more about what is it like in that real world, as I like to say. Because when I was sitting in your seat, I didn't have access to professionals. I didn't get that ability to connect with somebody and say, what does an average day look like? What kind of things do you do? What kind of projects do you get involved in? I didn't have that. That's the goal behind the Mentor Connect program. And so if you're interested, take advantage of that. I'll come back just really quickly. Let's skip that for a moment. Oh, there's the Mentor Connect tag if you're interested in learning more about it. But I would love to take questions from any of you that are thinking about entrepreneurship, because I'll also say, and I said this in a call I was on last week with our team, if I knew then, back in January of 97, what I know now about building a business to $1 billion, would I have started SRC or Alteryx? Probably not. But I always say, thank God I was ignorant about how much work it was going to be, because it is the most rewarding thing in the world to be able to see and hear our customers, our sparked customers saying, these are the things that I can do now. These are the things that I was never able to do before. That to me is what this is all about. It is all about the people. And so as an entrepreneur, think about your skills, think about your leadership, think about the impact or the influence that you want to have. And I'll also say this out loud. I never focused on the money. Never. You know how, for those of you, your paycheck gets automatically deposited? Like every 6 months, I'd just go and check to make sure money was in my account. Never focused on the money. It was all about how do we impact people? How do we influence what they're doing? How do we make their lives better? And so think about that from a business perspective as you're thinking about businesses. Just really quick show of hands. How many of you want or maybe have started a business already? Yeah. How many of you have successfully exited? How many of you have seen it fail? A lot of the same hands actually went up. So there's amazing coaching right here in this room. And so it's so rewarding. And I shared this story the other day. My dad was an entrepreneur. Dean's dad was an entrepreneur. Ned's mom was the entrepreneur. His dad worked for somebody, so he never classified his dad as an entrepreneur, but his mom was an entrepreneur. And so we came from that environment. We came from that, you know, what is it like to actually get to take a family vacation? And what was it like to be able to hear your father actually talk about the business? I can still hear my father talking about different situations that I still remember. And so how many of you have a desire to start that business? Few hands. There's one very energetic hand. If you thought you worked hard before, just wait. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to level set you on what's in front of you. It's the most rewarding thing in the world. Don't take what I'm saying as, oh my God, I can't do this. Do it, but just be ready to work really, really hard. So I want to stop and just ask questions. Who has questions? Who has thoughts before I keep going? Don't be bashful. Yes.
7 years ago, company.
The best piece of advice that I should have given myself, gosh. Sit back every once in a while and enjoy the ride. I can tell you that one of my taglines is I've gotten comfortable being uncomfortable because it is never easy. So my foot has always been on the gas, leaning forward. And I feel that would have been, and I've actually had some people say to me, especially when we have our customer conference, we host that once a year, and this year we're doing it in May in Las Vegas. And I had one of my coworkers say to me 2 years ago at the customer conference, we were going to the closing night celebration, and we were kind of all standing in line trying to get into the convention center. And she said, Libby, look at all these people that you've influenced. Do you ever sit back and look at what you've done? And I don't look at it as what I've done. It's a we. It is clearly a we, because 2,500 people plus at Alteryx, it takes all of us. That would be my advice, is for any of you that are, whatever your job is, whether you're starting a business or you're joining a business, every once in a while, sit back and look at what you've done. Take stock of the impact that you're having, what you're learning, how your business is and your job is influencing you. So great question. Because you see, I actually had to think about that one. Thanks. Other questions? Yes.
Could you use the mic? Sorry.
Well, you have three co-founders, right, in the beginning. So when you have different opinions, how do you solve the conflict?
Dude, we have different opinions. Duncan, you know Ned.
Especially when you make significant decisions.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, you just threw me back to 2001. First layoff we had to do, because 2001 was the .com thing, and the whole world was, again, probably a lot of you weren't even around then, but the whole world was shaking because Silicon Valley was blowing up, because people had built these companies on sand, and they were touting, you know, multi-million-dollar valuations, billion-dollar valuations, and there was nothing there. We never did that. And so one of the early really tough parts was we had to lay some people off, and we were a tiny company back then. And that's a great example where you saw the three of us come together and support each other, say, okay, this is the plan, this is the strategy, this is what we have to do, and be able to execute it. We stayed together, and I still today talk to both Dean and Ned. They're both retired. They may not talk to each other, but I still talk to them. And it's that ability to have respect and trust for each other, for what each of us did and what our areas of expertise were. And so that's the other part of this. In fact, I was mentoring a woman in Poland, because she was a founder with another guy of a company, and she was having a hard time because he wouldn't listen to her. And I said, you need to pick a lane. What is your area of expertise? Because if you're trying to tell him how to do development, that's not your core area of expertise. And so we very much respected what each one of us did and what each one of us brought to the partnership. And that ability to respect each other and trust each other goes a long way, really long way. So, I mean, I would still call Dean or Ned today if I had a question that I was really scratching my head about. I'd pick up the phone. I'd probably text them first, but that's what I would do. It's that level of connection that you have with your business partners. So,
kind of in follow-up to that, at what stage in the company did you decide that you needed to bring on like a board of advisors or a board of directors in order to help mediate some of maybe the discussions, tough discussions that the three of you would have inevitably?
great question. We were actually forced to bring on a board when we started raising money, because what was SAP Ventures turned into Sapphire Ventures wanted to invest in us, but they wouldn't invest in us unless there was a board. And so that was the start, was putting those investors with a couple of us on the board.
And so were there any big major discussions, decisions? Did you feel like they interfered or held you back in any way, shape, or form? Or were they always helpful? Were there any issues or problems with having now these additional opinions coming into your business?
So I'm going to share a story with you. The reason that we did not raise money until 2011 was because Dean and I worked for a company in the mid 90s out of Santa Clara, San Jose, Silicon Valley. The two guys that started that company were raising money because he wanted to acquire a data company and take on the competitor that was clearly number one in the space. It was a GIS software. And I watched VCs run that business. Steve got tossed out because he didn't get tossed out. He was giving away his parts of the company, his shares, to satisfy them. And I saw none of them knew what the business was. They just wanted their money back. And so I said to Dean, before we ever started the company, I said, if we do this, we need to do it on our own. We need to self-fund. And my exact words to him were, I don't want someone from the outside telling us how to run this business when they don't know the business. And so that's what kept us running until 2011 when we had to raise money. The other story I will share with you is this was after we were public and getting questions. And one of the questions that I got was, Libby, as a female founder, why do you think that female-owned businesses rarely get invested in? And I scratched my head and I walked into Dean's office, as I often would, and say, Dean, what do you think? He said, Libby, this has nothing to do with women-run businesses. It has to do with the fact that VC are run by men. And so I said, okay, check, got it. And so all you women out there that want to start a business, go ahead and do it. Just make sure you don't get caught in the quagmire of, I need to raise money to do this. If I can't raise money, I can't do this. Because you might hit that quagmire of men not wanting to invest in you or having to work harder to find those investment dollars. And so we were very unconventional in the way we did it. To run for 14 years self-funding, most people look at us like, you people are nuts. It paid off. And so I hope that gives you some insight into how we got to where we were and what that journey looked like. Yeah.
Hi, Libby. During your time as, especially starting off in a small team of 3 founders, especially as the only female founder, what was that experience like, especially back during that time? Were there things that you think you could have, or observations that you had that you wish you could have changed, or are there tips and tricks? How was the dynamic?
I will say, and let me just bring back up their picture. I will say that I had the privilege of working with 2 gentlemen who never made the discussion around male, female, dominance, none of that. This all started for us way before the Me Too movement happened. We did not have anything like that going on in our company. These 2 are not wired that way. My husband is not wired that way. I can tell you, in fact, I will tell you a real world story. I was in sales at the start because we needed to generate revenue to make payroll and keep the lights on. And I went to a real estate company and was going to be talking to them about our technology. And I was talking to a man, probably, I'm remembering back, probably late 50s, early 60s at the time, and doing the sales process and talking to him about what we do and how we do it and what we could do for them. And I knew this guy's never going to buy from me, never going to buy from me. I could stand on my head and do backflips and he's not going to buy from me. I went back to the office and I said, Dean, you've got to take this because this guy's never going to buy from me. And that was the example where it wasn't about me proving him wrong or me being mad because he's never going to buy from me. It was all about, I got to get this thing done because I see the opportunity. He saw the opportunity. He was just never going to do business with me. So my coaching to people is figure out how you solve the problem and don't make it about yourself. Make it about how do we get to a solution, whatever that looks like. Let's get to that solution. And that's what working with these two guys was like. I never had a problem saying, I need your advice. I've got a question. I need your help. What should we do? Because for them, it was never about they're right and I'm wrong. So it might have been a little of that between the two of them. So, but it was never about that. So stay focused on what the right solution could be. And I'm very fortunate. I've never had to make it about male versus female, or diversity elements being the reason that something couldn't happen. So,
Thank you.
yeah, great question.
Hi, my name is Ritika. Thank you for coming and talking and sharing your story. My question for you is, how do you stay ahead of competition? What is your approach to innovation, especially with the rapid change of technology that we see on a day-to-day basis? And what's your vision for Alteryx for the next 5 or 10 years? And as my second question is, how do you feel your marketing degree helped you be an entrepreneur, if it did?
Can I start with your second question first? When I was in university, I found my passion. When I started in my freshman year, at least back when I was in school, I had to declare my major, but I knew I wanted to be a business major, but I had to pick, is it management, accounting, marketing? I can't remember what else they had. And so I picked accounting because I knew that from high school. Well, freshman year, first semester, Accounting 101. My balance sheets never balanced. And I was like, I don't get this, but I'll give it a second try. Second semester, Accounting 102. I'm out. But at that same time, I discovered marketing. And when I was in high school, I didn't know marketing. We didn't have that. And I discovered that, and I was like, oh my God, I love this. I get it. This really lights me up, understanding what makes people do things. How are they doing it? How companies succeed because they're doing the right things from a customer perspective and bringing in more customers. And so that's how I got started. I actually started my career in a customer service role. When I graduated from school, I'm originally from New York. I went back to New York, worked in New York City for 5 years, and started in customer service at a data company. It was actually a technology company that was processing data. Did I have any idea that was what I was going to be doing in college? No, I just knew I wanted a job. And so that's how I was able to apply what I had learned in college into early in my career, and then went on from there. Actually went into a sales role. And this is my sales guy over here, was good in sales. And then we started the company and I was in sales again. So find your passion, find what you are passionate about. If you don't like what you're doing, stop doing it, figure something else out. Because people look at me and they're like, Libby, why are you still working? Because I love what I do. So that's my word of advice. Definitely follow your passion. Your other question was,
How do you stay ahead of competition?
how do we stay ahead of competition? Sales. There's two parts to that question. The technology, we have to innovate. What we built, or what Ned built, started building in 2002. We started talking about taking the Experian household file and being able to do some things with it for customers here in the US. And we said, okay, it's 135 million households. Back then, that was a mega database, by the way. Now it's like, you throw that around on a jump drive, it's like, yeah, no big deal. It was how do we innovate and stay ahead so competition is actually chasing us? Do we have competition? Absolutely. We're fighting the likes of Microsoft, Google. We partner with Amazon, but we also compete with Amazon. We partner with Snowflake for data in the cloud. So it's all about innovating and having that vision of how are we going to do something for our user base that's better than what they may be doing now. And so you've got to stay aware. You've got to look at what your competition is doing, but we never looked at it and said, we need to do that too. We might look at that and say, we need to do something like that, but we're never going to copy them exactly. We're going to innovate. And so it's a constant learning. My motto is never stop learning. I learn something new every day. I heard someone else say that in our meeting earlier. You guys are in this environment now. Don't ever lose that. Keep learning every day. Try something new, try something different, read something, however you digest information, do something every day. So you're welcome.
You said that you've gotten comfortable being uncomfortable, or at least you recommend it. Everyone's talked about the growth of the company. Could you speak to the growth of the organization and how that scales when you're a flat organization to maybe an adolescent type to where you are now? And when were the times of being comfortable and uncomfortable in that? Because it's difficult for a company to change as those levels expand.
Yes, absolutely. And you're throwing me back on those different inflection points. And I'll speak to the before we raise money part first. So before that, and we were, we started in 97 and we're, 3 people starting, and then we're 5 people, and then we're 9 people. And it was interesting to hear people say, it's interesting now for me to hear people say, well, I left Alteryx when you were 40 people because I didn't want to work for a big company. And I'm like, what? But I think back to that now, and it's like, it made sense back then. And one of the things that I learned was be okay with people that don't want to stay on the journey. And so that was hard, though. In the beginning, it's like, why would you want to leave? It's us. Look at what we're doing. This is so cool. You're such a great part of this. But they just didn't want to be a part of it. We had to get okay with people leaving. So that's the first thing. The second thing is helping people see the change. That's hard because we as humans, we're not wired to change. We're wired to be very set in our ways, to be very, specific about what we do. And so when you're changing, when the machine around you is changing and growing, you've got to help people see that. And not everybody wants to see it. We just said goodbye 9 months ago to the first employee we ever hired. And she is a great example of somebody that could make changes. But she just hit a wall at the end where she's just like, I can't do this anymore. And that's okay. And so that's that. She's an example of somebody that continued to grow, continued to morph, continued to learn. She ran a bunch of different jobs and teams over that 25 years or so, whatever it was. But it's that ability to help people see their potential if they can embrace that change. So, yeah. And I will also say the change doesn't get easier as you get bigger. It's just different. It's at a different scale. So, yeah.
Hi, Libby. My name's Sean. I was interested in how you talked about the strategy behind Alteryx, focusing on students first. And I recently learned that Alteryx has moved private. I was just wondering what that what impact that has on the business right now going forward?
Well, you are up on the news because it's only been a week. And the impact on the business, John, is going to be amazing because we are no longer reporting to Wall Street. And anybody who has friends or family in Wall Street, or I'm speaking specifically on investors, I'm not directing this comment at them, but trying to get investors who talk to 150 companies a month to understand what Alteryx does and how we are not competing with Tableau, we partner with Tableau. We're not competing with RPA, we partner with RPA. I am so excited about not having to bang my head against that wall anymore. What it will also do is, from a product roadmap perspective, it gives us the true flexibility. I spoke about innovation before. It gives us that flexibility to innovate again because we're not on 90-day cycles. Because you can't build a product like Alteryx Designer in 90 days. You can add tiny little features maybe in 90 days, but you're not going to be able to do drastic changes. And Wall Street wants to see those quarterly reports. And so I am extremely excited about our future. And what makes it so exciting about our partnership or our ownership by Clearlake and Insight Partners is Insight has been with us for 10 years. They were an early investor back when I talked about that money raise. They were investing with us back then. So they know what customers say about our technology, and they know that you cannot buy that kind of marketing. You can't pay for that kind of customer passion unless they're actually passionate about what you do. So I'm very, very excited. And we finished 2023 just shy of $1 billion in revenue. I see our runway to be $4 or $5 billion easily over the course of the next, I'd like to say 5 years, but I don't think we're going to get to 5 billion in 5 years. But over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, we're easily going to be north of somewhere between $2 and $3 billion. So
Thank you so much. Congratulations on the acquisition.
thank you. Cynthia, I'm going to look at you. How much time? Okay.
I'm the older John in the room, I guess you could say. You talk about how difficult it is for women to get financing, and I have found it extremely hard. I think also because what you're trying to do, I'm trying to do something slightly out of the norm. And where would you suggest people like us go to now? So you said you found this one partner early on. I've been talked to VCs and they're like, oh, we don't do that, or we don't do startups, or we don't do, whatever it is. I've even talked to the SBMDC or whatever it's called, the small business thing, and same problems. Where would you recommend that we start at to acquire funding?
Let me ask a
Man or
question.
woman?
Yeah.
I'm your white male, and I still can't get funding.
Yeah. I don't want to encroach on what you're doing, but do you have customers yet? Have you been able to build something?
I do not, but the industry does exist. I'm just not doing it myself yet. I'm trying to purchase the equipment to be able to start that
Okay.
process.
So the funding is for the purchasing of equipment?
Correct.
Okay. I think you will probably know what I'm going to say, but I'm thinking about, you tried SBA loans, it sounds like, and they said no. I would keep knocking on that door.
The problem is they take you to regular loan. I mean, you end up with the same banks. You go to the same people eventually. They just say it's an SBA loan. They go, oh, we can't do it that way. We'll try conventional, and then they deny you there. And it's totally trashed my credit in the process. So
Oh.
now I have such a bad FICO, they won't talk to me about that either. So, I've had so many people ding my credit.
Right.
That I'm in a no-win situation.
Yeah. Is there someone out there that's already doing what you want to do?
Yeah.
quite honestly, I would say go learn from your competition.
Mhm.
Can you get a job at one of those companies? And
Well, I'm
see
trying to
what they're
partner with
doing?
one of them, but I
Okay.
still need I mean, they're already kind of maxed out. I want to bring in a machine to continue their growth.
Yep,
And I'm just trying to get financing to do that.
yeah.
So they're already established, but I mean, do you want to know am I too vague to make sense? Or, I mean, this is kind of a general question for everybody.
Yeah.
So.
No, I get what your question is. And I wish I could tell you, but you're already hitting the nail on the head. VCs have areas of specialty, like the one that invested in us, Insight Partners, they are very strategic on the technology companies that they'll invest in and where they are in their growth. Startups are the riskiest, literally the riskiest. So you've got to find sometimes it's like finding that needle in a haystack, because you've got to find the VCs that are investing in startups in that sector that you're going to be in, and love the idea of what you're doing and love your business plan. So don't stop looking. You've just got to find that right connection, that right VC that is willing to take that risk. Because it was very risky, and that's the other reason why we waited, for 14 years.
Well, that's why I'm still doing the day job.
There you go. Yep.
Because I invest in early stage startups. And one thing that you could do is also go to your potential customer and check with them if they would be interested in investing in you. Oh. So you can even go to your potential customer and say, this is what you are trying to build. And if they would be interested in investing in you, because they understand the market.
So we actually did that. I'll tell you later.
No one? Can I squeeze 2 questions? Is that okay? Okay. So my first question, I know that you mentioned a bit about the Sparked program. I'm interested to learn more. Are there certain types of companies that you guys like to mentor, age groups, demographics, and just overall, what is it about?
The Sparked program is today serving students, educators, independent learners, as well as the military community. The customers that we have, that logo slide showed you a few minutes ago, they're the people that are being those mentors for the mentees. But I would say you're making me think, and Chris, I'm actually thinking this is an idea we need to take back for early in career, early entrepreneurs, early business. Maybe we're doing mentoring for others as well. So reach out to either Chris Copa or myself on LinkedIn, and we'll see if we can get you connected.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Thank you. And then my second question is more towards you, is from the start of forming the company, creating the business, now to where you're at with all of the different trajectories that you've had, how has your role changed?
Great question. Yes, so I'll give you a quick snapshot of my life at Alteryx, and it'll be a really quick snapshot. Started out primarily in sales because we needed revenue and I could sell. I stayed and earned the right as #1 salesperson for probably like 4 years. And then in 2010, when we started raising money, Dean came to me and he said, Libby, we've got amazing customers. And if we're raising money, bringing more customers in, we can't lose sight of what's gotten us here, which is the customer. So back in 2010, before it was mainstream, I stepped into the title role of Chief Customer Officer. Yeah. And so I read a book by Gene Bliss, Chief Customer Officer, and then Chief Customer Officer 2.0. She wrote that book. And I took our experience and made that pervasive across Alteryx, because everyone touches a customer in a company. It's not just salespeople. It's not just support people. Everyone touches the customer. It could be in the technology. It could be through a legal contract. It could be through an invoice. everyone touches the customer. And I did that until 2020, so 10 years. Grew that organization, grew that team, grew that culture at Alteryx. And then now I sit as Chief Advocacy Officer with owning the Sparked program, or leading the Sparked program, I should say, and also spending quite a bit of time with our sales organization on why is analytics so important to companies like what you saw on that slide earlier. And as Chief Advocacy Officer, actually, in a lot of my roles, I've had the privilege of visiting with customers literally around the world. And so I get to come back and report, what am I hearing? What am I seeing? You know, everybody always says, well, the US is always first. And I'm like, no, we're not first in this particular area. You know, UK is ahead of us there, or Japan is ahead of us there. And so we're reporting back constantly, so that from a competitive perspective, your question earlier, we know what we've got to do and what we've got to be thinking about next. So,
Thank you.
sure.
All right. Well, everybody, please join me in thanking Libby, and please accept our water tumbler and our very own Leatherby Center for
Yeah,
Entrepreneurship and Business Ethics. Joanne,
very nice. Thank you.
thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Absolutely.